Hello goblins, ghouls, and ghosts. I'm Jessie Quinn from Cup of Books, and today I'm bringing you some Halloween book recommendations with a twist. It's not a monster twist. When it comes to books that are recommended for Halloween specifically, there are some titles that almost inevitably end up on everyone's list. Recommendations like Frankenstein. You should totally read Frankenstein. For this reason, I decided to pick out 5 books that I personally feel would make great Halloween reads, but are very unlikely to be on any Halloween recommended reading lists you come across. They are, shall we say, not your normal Halloween recommendations, but being normal is vastly overrated. Starting on the middle grade end of the reading spectrum, I would like to recommend Witch Witch by Ibbotson as a non-traditional Halloween read. In this novel, a wicked warlock decides it's finally time to settle down and get married, so he does what your average wicked warlock would do. He throws the ultimate dark magic competition in the hopes of finding the most wicked witch to wed. It's kind of like if Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire met The Bachelor, with some royal doll sense of humor mixed in. While it is a book that features many witches, I can't see many people recommending this for Halloween because it's a book about getting married or holding a competition to find a bride so that you can get married. You know, mushy stuff. However, I'm gonna recommend it for Halloween because it's not every day that you read a middle grade book that features necromancy and actually names it as necromancy. That's kind of cool. The next book on my list of not your average Halloween recommendations is Twix by Diemer. Twix is a dark fantasy story focusing on the city of Obio, where people wake up and don't quite remember how they got there. By night, the people are terrorized by skeletal creatures that haunt the skies. And by day they cower before the Sixers, the malicious women who rule over the city, and who might be able to get you your memories back, for a price. It's a dark fantasy, but it's still a freaking fantasy. And fantasies aren't usually what we associate with Halloween reads. The dark tone in this one makes for a really great young adult's Halloween read. But what it comes down to, for me personally, is the characters of the Sixers. For my third recommendation, I am going to cheat slightly because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want, and recommend a series of books, namely the Miss Marple mystery series by the Queen of Mystery herself. Miss Marple is a kind elderly woman who is all up in everyone's business, and she uses her busybody tendencies to solve murder mysteries. Now, on occasion, I do see people recommending Agatha Christie mysteries for Halloween, though they tend to recommend some of her standalones or her Perot series. I don't see Miss Marple generally making the list. If you're interested in picking up a Miss Marple mystery and you're feeling just absolutely overwhelmed by options, I have 2 books I would highly recommend in the series. My first recommendation would be the book that started the series, The Murder at the Vicarage, which I have actually reviewed on this channel before. The second book I would highly recommend out of the series is The Moving Finger, and I don't remember which number it is, but it is great. As to why I would recommend the Miss Marple series for Halloween specifically, they're murder mysteries. Do I really need to elaborate on that? This brings me to the 4th book on my not-so-normal Halloween recommendation list, and that is A Cursed Darkest Gold by Elizabeth C. Bunce. I have also reviewed this book on my channel. This is a young adult's retelling of Rumpelstiltskin, and you may be wondering why I would put a fairy tale retelling on a Halloween recommendations list. Well, to remind you, these are not your average Halloween recommendations. Charlotte Miller, our protagonist, and her sister inherit their late father's mill. A mill which everyone in the village says there's a curse on. I would recommend A Cursed Darkest Gold simply because of the atmosphere. It has a very autumny feel, even when it's not autumn in the book. Also, while our protagonist may not believe in the curse, you have to admit there's something strange going on at the miller's mill. And finally, since we're already talking about retellings, I want to recommend Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Macguire. This novel is set before the events in The Wizard of Oz. It tells the story of Elphaba, the woman who is eventually going to become the Wicked Witch of the West. In my experience, this is a book that inspires a lot of conflicting emotions. It certainly did for me, and 3 years later, I'm still not quite sure what I think about this one, except that I really liked the atmosphere. Even though this novel is a reimagining of a magical land in a children's series, and even though at its darkest it's not that spooky, I just can't help but recommend Wicked for a Halloween read because I really feel that the atmosphere suits this time of year. There's just something about it that screams October to me, and I can't quite explain why. I think you're just gonna have to trust me on this.